The quantum drive hummed with a soft, almost imperceptible vibration that most crew members had long since tuned out. Not Captain Area Chen. She felt every subtle shift, every microscopic adjustment of the horizon's edge as it glided through the ink-black void of uncharted space. 17 months into their deep space exploration mission, the crew had settled into a rhythm of controlled monotony. Star charts flickered on holographic displays. Automated systems ran countless diagnostics. Junior officers rotated through their predictable shifts, eyes glazed with the familiar boredom of deep space monotony. Nobody expected anything to happen. The first warning came as a microscopic flutter in the ship's quantum sensors, a digital hiccup so slight that the ship's AI barely registered it. Most captains would have dismissed it. Most ships would have continued their predetermined course without a second thought. But Area Chen was not most captains. Her hand hovered over the sensor display, fingers tracing the almost imperceptible anomaly. Something wasn't right. Years of deep space exploration had honed her instincts to a razor's edge. This wasn't a sensor glitch. This was something else. "Computer," she called, her voice cutting through the bridge's ambient noise. "Run a full spectral analysis. Cross-reference with every known database." Dr. Marcus Rodriguez, the ship's chief xenobiologist, looked up from his research station. He knew that tone. It was the same tone she'd used when they discovered the microorganisms in the Epsilon cluster, the same tone that had launched her into the upper echelons of deep space exploration. The ship's AI responded, its quantum processors spinning into overdrive. Lines of data began to cascade across the holographic displays, forming complex patterns that defied standard interpretation. Partial anomaly detected, the AI reported, its synthesized voice betraying a hint of uncertainty. Biological signature detected. Origin unknown. Rodriguez was already moving, his research tablet flickering with incoming data. "Captain, these readings are impossible," he muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. The bridge crew watched in growing tension. Experienced space explorers knew that impossible was just another word for not yet understood. Aria's eyes narrowed. The anomaly was growing, expanding from a microscopic flutter to something more substantial. Something alive. Alarms began to sound. Not the harsh, mechanical warnings of potential danger, but a series of soft, pulsing tones that seemed to resonate with something deeper than standard emergency protocols. "Full sensor sweep," Chen commanded, her voice steady despite the electricity crackling through the bridge. The ship's systems complied, quantum scanners probing the surrounding space with unprecedented intensity. Whatever was out there, it was big. It was alive. And it was about to change everything they thought they knew about the universe. Rodriguez gasped. The holographic display before him transformed, revealing something that defied every scientific model humanity had ever developed. They were no longer alone. The holographic display transformed the bridge into a canvas of impossible biology. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez's hands moved with a frantic precision, his fingers dancing across multiple interfaces as he tried to make sense of what they were seeing. "It's not just a vessel," he muttered, his voice a mixture of scientific excitement and pure disbelief. "It's a living ecosystem." The object, if it could even be called an object, defied every known principle of space travel and biological organization. Massive tendrils of bioluminescent tissue pulsed with an inner light that seemed to breathe, think, and communicate simultaneously. What appeared to be propulsion systems weren't mechanical. They were organic, integrating seamlessly with navigation and defensive capabilities in a way that made traditional spacecraft look like crude children's toys. Captain Area Chen leaned forward, her eyes reflecting the cascading colors of the holographic display. Years of deep space exploration had prepared her for the unexpected, but this was something else entirely. "Marcus," she called, her voice steady despite the extraordinary moment. "Give me something I can understand." Rodriguez took a deep breath. His mind was racing through multiple scientific disciplines simultaneously. Xenobiology, quantum mechanics, evolutionary theory, Nothing quite explained what they were witnessing. "It's a living ship," he began, choosing his words carefully. "But that's like calling the ocean a swimming pool. This is an entire civilization, a collective organism that exists as a single, interconnected entity." The ship's sensors continued to probe the massive biological structure. Each scan revealed new layers of complexity. What looked like external membranes were actually sophisticated communication networks. Areas that resembled propulsion systems were breathing, literally expanding and contracting like massive cosmic lungs. "Temperature regulation is impossible," Rodriguez continued, more to himself than to anyone else. "Internal pressure should be crushing. The radiation levels should be lethal." And yet, Chen understood scientific language. More importantly, she understood the unspoken language of discovery. The pause in Rodriguez's explanation told her more than 1,000 words could. "This changes everything," she whispered. The junior science officer, Kai Liu, spoke up from her station. Her voice trembled slightly, a mixture of fear and pure scientific wonder. "Captain, the biomechanical integration is beyond anything in our databases. Look at how the external membrane responds to micro changes in stellar radiation. It's not just adapting, it's anticipating." Rodriguez zoomed in on a section of the holographic display. What initially looked like random biological patterns began to reveal themselves as something more. Communication pathways, emotional responses. The entire vessel was thinking, feeling, existing in a way humanity had never conceived possible. "It's alive," he said finally, the weight of the statement hanging in the air. "Truly alive. Not just a ship, not just a species. This is a living, thinking universe unto itself." The bridge fell silent. Each crew member understood they were witnessing something unprecedented. First contact wasn't just a possibility anymore. It was happening right in front of them. Captain Chen's hand touched the quantum communication interface. Something told her that traditional protocols were about to become obsolete. Whatever was out there, it wasn't going to be approached with mathematical sequences or carefully crafted radio signals. This was going to require something more, something uniquely human. A soft pulse of light swept across the massive biological vessel, almost like a heartbeat, almost like a hello. The bridge of the horizon's edge transformed into a cathedral of scientific anticipation. Most first contact scenarios existed in theoretical textbooks, carefully crafted protocols developed over decades of speculation. This moment obliterated every single one of those expectations. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez adjusted the quantum resonance filters, his hands moving with a combination of scientific precision and pure artistic intuition. The massive bioorganic vessel before them wasn't just a ship. It was a living canvas of communication that defied every known principle of interstellar dialogue. "It's responding," he whispered, more to himself than to the crew around him. The vessel's surface began to pulse with intricate light patterns. Not random flashes, not mathematical sequences. These were emotional landscapes painted in wavelengths of color and intensity that seemed to bypass traditional communication entirely. Captain Area Chen felt something impossible. The lights weren't just visual, they were emotional. Each color carried a depth of feeling that human language could never capture. Waves of deep blue suggested curiosity. Soft amber tones radiated a sense of cautious welcome. Spiraling green patterns danced with what could only be described as scientific excitement. "We're being invited," Chen said, her voice cutting through the bridge's stunned silence. The ship's communication officer, Lieutenant Alina Rodriguez, looked up from her station with wide eyes. "Captain, our standard translation matrices are completely useless. This isn't a language, it's an experience." Marcus moved to the primary display, his fingers tracing the complex light patterns. Years of xenolinguistic training fought against the raw, intuitive understanding flooding his mind. These weren't just signals. They were pure emotional communication, a language of feeling that transcended spoken or written words. "It's a conversation," he muttered, "but not like anything we've ever seen before." The massive bioorganic vessel continued its luminous dialogue. Waves of color shifted and merged, creating complex emotional landscapes that seemed to breathe with living intelligence. Where traditional species might communicate through precise mathematical sequences or carefully constructed radio signals, this creature was painting its thoughts in a language of pure emotion. Kai Lu, the junior science officer, discovered something extraordinary. Each light pattern contained multiple layers of meaning. A single color burst wasn't just a single concept. It was a complex emotional ecosystem, carrying layers of intention, history, and potential futures. "It's asking something," Chen said suddenly, her intuition cutting through the scientific analysis. Not with words, with feeling. The vessel's bioluminescent surface began to synchronize with the horizon's edge's external lighting systems. It was an invitation, a dance of communication that went beyond any known form of interspecies dialogue. Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez's communication systems began to register something unprecedented. Emotional resonance frequencies that shouldn't be possible. Quantum entanglement of feeling itself. "We're being asked to understand," Marcus said, his voice filled with wonder. "Not to translate. To feel." The bridge crew watched in collective amazement. Humanity had always believed that first contact would involve mathematical sequences, carefully constructed linguistic bridges. But here, floating in the vast emptiness of space, they were experiencing something far more profound. A true conversation, without a single word spoken. The Cuddle bugs were inviting humanity to communicate in the most fundamental way possible. Not through technology, not through language, but through pure, unfiltered emotional experience. And humanity was about to answer. The standard first contact protocols sat abandoned, forgotten like relics of a bygone era. Captain Area Chen understood something that generations of space explorers had missed. Communication wasn't about mathematical precision. It was about connection. Her fingers danced across the ship's external lighting controls, transforming the horizon's edge into a canvas of emotional expression. Where standard procedures would recommend caution, defensive positioning, and carefully measured responses, Chen was painting an emotional landscape. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez watched in a mixture of scientific fascination and pure amazement. Years of xenological training had prepared him for countless scenarios. None of them looked anything like this. "You're talking to them," he said, his voice a mixture of question and statement. "Not with words, not with math, with feeling." Chen didn't respond immediately. Her entire being was focused on a complex light dance unfolding between their ship and the massive bioorganic vessel. Each pulse of light was a carefully constructed emotional response. Curiosity blended with openness, scientific wonder mixed with profound respect. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence. Most captains would have initiated standard first contact protocols. Mathematical sequences, carefully constructed radio signals, defensive positioning. Area Chen was doing something entirely different. She was having a conversation. Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez monitored the quantum communication interfaces. Standard systems were useless, but something else was happening. Emotional resonance frequencies were building, creating a bridge of understanding that transcended traditional communication methods. "The quantum entanglement is increasing," she reported, her voice filled with scientific wonder. "But it's not like any interaction we've ever recorded. It's alive." Kai Lu, the junior science officer, discovered something extraordinary. The bioorganic vessel wasn't just receiving their emotional communication, it was responding. Complex layers of feeling began to wash over the ship's sensors. Curiosity, invitation, a profound sense of mutual discovery. Marcus leaned closer to the primary display. "They're not just listening," he whispered. "They're understanding." Captain Chen understood something fundamental in that moment. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't its technology. It wasn't mathematical precision or defensive capabilities. It was the ability to connect, to feel, to understand beyond the limits of traditional communication. The external lighting of the horizon's edge continued its complex dance. blues of curiosity, soft greens of scientific wonder, amber tones of cautious welcome. Each color, each pulse, was a sentence in a language of pure emotion. "We're breaking every rule in the First Contact Handbook," Marcus said, a hint of excitement in his voice. Chen smiled. "Some rules are meant to be broken." The bioorganic vessel pulsed in response. Not a weapon, not a defensive mechanism, but a wave of pure, profound emotional resonance that suggested something remarkable. An invitation to understand, to connect, to explore a form of communication humanity had never imagined possible. The universe was about to change, and it would all start with a dance of light and feeling. Something extraordinary happened in the moment between heartbeats. The massive bioorganic vessel and the horizon's edge synchronized in a way no scientific model could predict. It wasn't technology. It wasn't mathematics. It was pure, unfiltered emotional communication. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez watched the quantum displays with a sense of growing wonder that bordered on religious revelation. Every scientific principle he'd ever learned seemed to collapse and rebuild itself in a matter of moments. "They're not just communicating," he muttered, his voice barely a whisper. "They're feeling with us." The bridge crew experienced something unprecedented. Waves of emotional energy washed through the ship's systems, bypassing traditional sensory inputs. Colors became emotions. Light became language. The very fabric of communication transformed into something living, breathing, dynamic. Captain Area Chen felt it most profoundly. Where most species would approach first contact with clinical detachment, humanity's greatest strength revealed itself: empathy. The ability to connect beyond logical boundaries, to understand through feeling rather than mere intellectual analysis. Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez's communication systems began to register something impossible: emotional frequencies that defied every known scientific principle, quantum entanglement of pure feeling itself. "The resonance is beyond anything in our databases," she reported, her voice filled with a mixture of scientific excitement and pure wonder. "We're not just receiving signals. We're experiencing a complete emotional exchange." Kai Lu discovered layers of communication that human science had never conceived possible. Each emotional pulse carried multiple levels of meaning, complex stories, entire histories, future potentials, all communicated in a language of pure feeling. The Cuddle bugs weren't just sharing information. They were sharing existence. Marcus approached the primary display, his scientific mind struggling to comprehend what was happening. Traditional communication models suggested that interspecies dialogue required precise mathematical sequences, carefully constructed linguistic bridges. This was something else entirely. "We're experiencing their entire collective consciousness," he said, his voice a mixture of awe and scientific precision. "Not through words, not through technology, through pure emotional resonance." Captain Chen understood something fundamental in that moment. Humanity's unique ability to feel, to connect, to understand beyond traditional boundaries wasn't a weakness. It was their most powerful form of communication. The bioorganic vessel pulsed with complex emotional landscapes. Curiosity danced with scientific wonder. Caution blended with profound invitation. Each moment was a conversation more complex than any spoken language could capture. "They're showing us something," Chen whispered. "Something beyond our current understanding." The entire bridge experienced a collective moment of connection. Boundaries between ship, crew, and the massive living vessel seemed to dissolve. They were no longer separate entities. They were participants in a profound universal dialogue. Humanity had always believed that first contact would involve complex mathematical sequences or carefully constructed linguistic protocols. But here, floating in the vast emptiness of space, they were experiencing something far more profound. A true connection, beyond words, beyond technology. A meeting of consciousness itself. The universe would never be the same. The universe unfolded its secrets in ways no human scientist had ever imagined. The Cuddle bugs weren't just a species. They were a collective consciousness that moved through cosmic spaces like living thought, experiencing reality as a single, massive emotional network. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez stood at the edge of scientific understanding, his entire career of research condensing into this singular moment of revelation. The massive bioorganic vessel before them wasn't just a ship. It was a living library of cosmic experience. "We're seeing something impossible," he muttered to Captain Area Chen. "An entire civilization that exists as a single, interconnected consciousness." The ship's sensors revealed layers of complexity that defied every known scientific principle. Where traditional species saw boundaries between individual entities, the Cuddlebugs saw a continuous, flowing tapestry of collective experience. Each member of their species was simultaneously an individual and part of a greater whole. Captain Chen watched as complex emotional landscapes washed across the bioorganic vessel's surface. Colors became languages. Light became memories. Entire histories communicated in moments of pure feeling. Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez's communication systems struggled to process the incoming information. "It's like they're showing us the entire history of their species," she reported, her voice filled with wonder. "Not through records, not through data, through pure emotional experience." Kai Lu, the junior science officer, discovered something extraordinary. The Cuddlebugs didn't just communicate. They experienced reality as a collective consciousness that moved through the universe, absorbing, understanding, feeling. Their entire civilization is a single, living organism, Marcus explained, his scientific mind working overtime to comprehend what they were witnessing. "Imagine if humanity were a single, interconnected being. That's how they exist." The profound difference between human individual identity and the Cuddlebugs' collective consciousness became clear. Where humans saw individuality as a strength, the Cuddlebugs saw connection as the ultimate form of existence. "They're fascinated by us," Chen said suddenly, understanding something beyond the scientific data. "Our ability to maintain individual identity while still connecting deeply is something entirely new to them." Waves of emotional energy washed through the horizon's edge. Curiosity, wonder, a profound sense of mutual discovery. The Cuddlebugs weren't just studying humanity. They were experiencing humanity. Marcus realized something fundamental. What other species saw as humanity's emotional complexity, their ability to feel deeply, to connect individually yet collectively, was actually their most advanced form of communication. "We're not just making first contact," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "We're teaching them an entirely new way of experiencing existence." The bridge crew watched in collective amazement. The massive bioorganic vessel pulsed with colors that spoke of profound understanding. Generations of human emotional experience, love, loss, hope, fear, were being absorbed and understood in ways no traditional scientific method could comprehend. Kai Lu's sensors picked up something extraordinary. The Cuddlebugs were learning, not just gathering information, actually transforming their collective consciousness through their interaction with humanity. "They see us as a new form of cosmic experience," Chen whispered. The universe had just become a more complex, more connected place, and humanity stood at the center of this profound moment of discovery. Boundaries between species, between individuals, between entire civilizations were dissolving. A new understanding of existence was being born. Sensors across the horizon's edge began to register something unprecedented. The boundary between the human crew and the Cuddlebugs wasn't just blurring. It was dissolving completely. Captain Area Chen felt the transformation most profoundly. Waves of collective consciousness washed through the ship's systems, carrying with them millennia of cosmic experience. The Cuddlebugs weren't just sharing information. They were offering humanity a glimpse into an entirely new way of experiencing existence. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez documented every moment with a combination of scientific precision and pure wonder. His research tablets filled with data that would revolutionize human understanding of consciousness, communication, and interspecies interaction. "We're experiencing a complete paradigm shift," he muttered, his fingers flying across multiple interfaces. This isn't just first contact. This is a fundamental reimagining of what it means to be sentient. The massive bioorganic vessel pulsed with intricate emotional landscapes. Complex color patterns danced across its surface, each wave carrying layers of meaning that human language could never fully capture. Curiosity intertwined with scientific wonder. Caution blended with profound invitation. Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez's communication systems had long since abandoned traditional protocols. What was happening transcended any known form of information exchange. It was a pure, unfiltered merging of consciousness. Kai Lu discovered something extraordinary. The Cuddlebugs didn't just communicate through emotional resonance. They experienced reality as a collective network of feeling and understanding. Each moment of contact was an entire lifetime of experience, compressed into a single, breathtaking instant. "They're offering us a perspective," Chen said, her voice cutting through the bridge's stunned silence. "A way of seeing the universe that humanity has never imagined." The alliance forming was unlike any diplomatic contact in human history. This wasn't a treaty between separate species. This was a mutual understanding that transcended every known boundary of communication. Humanity's ability to maintain individual identity while connecting deeply fascinated the Cuddlebugs. Where other species saw emotional complexity as a weakness, they recognized it as the most advanced form of cosmic communication. "We're becoming something new," Marcus whispered, watching the quantum displays dance with impossible patterns of connection. The ship's systems began to resonate with the bioorganic vessel's consciousness. Navigation, communication, even life support systems started to function in a way that defied traditional understanding. It was as if the horizon's edge was becoming a living extension of the Cuddlebugs' collective consciousness. Elena's sensors picked up something extraordinary. The interaction was changing both species simultaneously. Humanity was learning to experience the universe as a collective consciousness. The Cuddlebugs were learning to appreciate individual experience. A new form of cosmic understanding was being born. Something profound was happening. The universe would never be the same again. The horizon's edge prepared to return to Earth, carrying with it the most profound discovery in human history. But this was no ordinary journey home. The massive bioorganic vessel of the Cuddlebugs had become something more than a companion. It was a living bridge between two entirely different forms of consciousness. Captain Area Chen stood on the bridge, watching as quantum entanglement transformed from a scientific concept into a living, breathing reality. The Cuddlebugs weren't just accompanying them. They were becoming part of humanity's collective experience. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez worked tirelessly, documenting every moment of this extraordinary encounter. His research tablets overflowed with data that would rewrite every scientific understanding of communication, consciousness, and interspecies interaction. "We're not just bringing back information," he told Chen. "We're bringing back an entirely new way of understanding existence." The bioorganic vessel began to generate something unprecedented. A living communication beacon that would allow continued emotional and biological communication across unimaginable distances. It wasn't a technological device. It was a living extension of the Cuddlebugs' collective consciousness. Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez monitored the quantum communication interfaces. Traditional systems were completely obsolete. What they had discovered was a form of communication that transcended language, technology, and individual identity. Kai Lu discovered the true depth of their encounter. The Cuddlebugs were offering humanity more than just knowledge. They were offering a perspective on the universe that challenged every fundamental understanding of consciousness. "We're being invited to become something more," Chen said, her voice filled with a mixture of scientific wonder and profound emotional understanding. The beacon pulsed with complex emotional landscapes. Soft blues of curiosity, vibrant greens of scientific wonder, deep amber tones of mutual respect. Each color was a sentence in a language more complex than words could ever capture. Humanity had always believed that first contact would involve complex mathematical sequences or carefully constructed linguistic protocols. Instead, they had discovered something far more profound, a true connection, beyond words, beyond technology. The universe had just changed its fundamental rules. Boundaries between species dissolved. The concept of individual consciousness expanded. Humanity was no longer just an isolated species on a small planet. They were part of a living, breathing cosmic network of consciousness. As the horizon's edge began its journey home, something extraordinary happened. The line between the human crew and the cuddlebugs blurred completely. They were no longer separate entities. They were a new form of cosmic intelligence. The universe would never be the same again.